Hello, my name is Dieter Lutzmeier. I'm professor in the Department of Automation Technology at Campus O2, University of Applied Sciences. And I would like to welcome you to the course Remote Update of Programs and Functionalities in the Remain program founded by Erasmus. This unit is called Unit 0 because it just gives a basic course introduction. So what I would like to do first is to give you a short overview of the content that will follow soon. We would like to start with the learning outcomes, then continue to the course content itself, and then finally I would like to present you a little bit about the hard and software that we are going to use on this course. Concerning the learning outcomes, which is basically the reason why you should attend this course, I would like to introduce what we decided to bring in this course. Very important is the software lifecycle of industrial control systems with PLCs, also called programmable logic controllers. And since this is really hard to pronounce all the time, many people just abbreviate it to PLCs. And there's a lot of software on them, and that's why you will have to improve these systems by improving the software, which is the reason for updates. And these also give risks and legal aspects that we would like to discuss in detail in this course. And of course, the technical part is most important. So we will talk about update mechanisms of firmware as well as operation software of the PLCs and its components. And finally, which is also important, especially in terms of remote maintenance, we need to have the possibility to do updates over secure connections, which means that we are not at the machine itself, we are sitting somewhere else in an office and would like to connect to those machines installed maybe at a customer site or somewhere else in the world where we could use the internet. And, which is also very important, we would like to give some hands-on training with real PLCs on a real system. So what is the course content? So basically the 8 units of this course. We would start with an introduction to PLC. So what is a PLC? What does real-time operation mean? As well as why we would like to program instead of wiring machines. Nevertheless, it's necessary to wire them. That's why we would discuss the general electrical setup of our experimentation system provided by Festo. And then we have to install the necessary programming software supplied by the multiple vendors of the PLCs. So each type of PLC normally has its own ecosystem consisting of the hardware as well as the software components that are necessary to program them. And then we would like to start with some basic hands-on where we do some basic operation mode of the machine that I will show you soon with a direct connection to the I/O modules so that we are sure that the software that we provide already works in a way that we would like it to work. And then we switch to the next level using network connections, especially the Profinet coupler provided by Festo. Therefore, we not only have the connection to the PLC, but we also have the connection from the PLC to the machine, which is also a situation that we can find in a lot of customer projects. Of course, we would like then to go more into detail about PLC updates and upgrades and the difference between those and why it is important. And there's also a lot of danger because we are maybe interrupt a working machine, which could lead to serious harm of people as well of the machine equipment. And therefore, we have to deal with the different mechanisms that are available on PLCs. As to say, we have to update the hardware modules with new firmware, as well as we have to update software components, which can result in total reset or maybe can just take place during operation, just stopping for one cycle or a few cycles, depending on the machine, depending on the setup, depending on a lot of things that we would like to discuss in detail. And then, as mentioned before, we would move over to a secure connection over the internet, which means that we then remotely connect our programming system to the machine. And to deal with practical hands-on, we need some hardware. And I would like to show you the hardware components that we are going to use in this course. Just let me give a short overview in the beginning. So what we have here is an automation cell, which is the machine that we're going to program. And we have some service PC, mainly running Windows 10 or further versions, where our software system, we can program the PLC, is running. And of course, the easy way is to directly connect this machine to that PLC. But we will see that, of course, using the internet in between, there's a lot more that we should consider. Therefore, we need some basic setup. So the main hardware that we are going to use is a Festo conveyor station that you can see here. And this conveyor station consists of the station itself, as well as a plug distributor where we can connect to our PLC using a specialized cable. So basically, this is just a simple connector that we can connect to this plug. And then there's an open end on the other side that we just can install on our PLC. Also, we have some Festo Profinet bus module, which means that we can use hardware provided by Festo to connect to those machines. And this hardware connection somehow looks like this, where you again can see that there is some Ethernet connection and there are some I/O modules that we then again are able to connect to the open wires provided by the Festo cable, as mentioned before. Also, we have different PLCs from different vendors, especially from Siemens, because this is provided in the project, but we would like to introduce PLCs of other manufacturers and of other types as well. So what we are going to look forward to is to use B&R, Bernecker and Reiner PLCs. B&R recently purchased by ABB, so big international company anyway, as well as Beckhoff from Germany, also a well-known provider of PLCs. And to be able to compare it to other systems or to simpler systems, we would also like to show it with a Siemens logo. Those devices basically look like this. So we have our Siemens PLC, which again consists of a power supply, the CPU and the I/O modules. As you can see, you can connect the I/O cables here. Again, like with all PLCs, we have PLCs from B&R with the CPU part, connection part, where you can attach I/O modules to the right. And just to show you also the classical Siemens logo, again, power supply, CPU and I/O modules. What we also need, as we mentioned, we will have to connect to the internet. So we need some secure device that provides some secure connection mechanism over the internet. And this is provided by Siemens Scalence routers, where we got two different types of those. So you can see the S615, two pieces of them to create a full secured remote connection, as well as an XC208, which is a much more powerful version, providing extra functionality. So we will try to set up a network with those three machines that is totally secured and just makes sure that we can provide the necessary security transport layer, and therefore can make sure that nobody else is able to use our connection to provide some software to the PLCs that would harm the PLCs or people. And many companies already use this type of setup. Therefore, it's quite a good idea to use those components because they are very well known in automation technology. And finally, I would like to show you the functionality of the conveyor station so that we understand what we are going to program in the course units. And this station, just in detail, this station consists of a DC motor on the back, and this DC motor operates with a gearbox the conveyor belt itself, and those conveyor belt then is able to transport small plastic capsules back and forward, which is not so interesting at all, but it becomes interesting if we just look at the type of sensors that we have. So we have an optical sensor and we have a capacity sensor, which means that we can sense the type of part that is on the conveyor belt. And to provide some second actuator, there's a mechanism with a coil, and this is just operating up and down, which means that if it's up, the parts can pass, and if it's down, then the parts will fall into the tray. Which is a pretty simple machine. Nevertheless, even though it's pretty simple, it gives the basic understanding of what a machine should do. We can make sure that we do not interrupt the operation by updating it. We can make sure that we understand how PLC's functionality works. And finally, we can see very easily if our updates were successful or not, whether the machine is continuing to work. Yeah, and finally, we have to talk about the software. We will have to use PLC software for programming, and therefore we use the corresponding software from Siemens, from B&R, from Beckhoff, and again Siemens for the logo, which is a much simpler system, therefore also a much simpler software, but for simple machines, this could be pretty helpful. So thank you very much for following me in this short introduction, and I would like to welcome you in the course unit number 1, where we start with PLC programming.